Did you ever watch Black Panther and think, wow, if only a place like Wakanda was real? What if I told you it was, and not just one, but many Wakandas scattered across the ancient African continent? They didn't have vibranium, but they had something even more powerful: immense wealth, groundbreaking knowledge, and unbreakable spirit. Stick with me, because we're about to uncover the hidden truth about Africa's real-life Wakandas, a history that was deliberately buried and is now fighting its way back to the light. Let's travel back in time, long before the world knew Marvel Comics. We're going to West Africa, to the legendary empire of Mali. Forget what you think you know about wealth. In the 14th century, Mali was the Silicon Valley of its time, a global epicenter of gold. Its most famous ruler, Mansa Musa, is still considered by many historians to be the wealthiest person who ever lived. When he went on his pilgrimage to Mecca, he carried so much gold that he literally changed the economy of every city he passed through. Imagine one person's generosity causing inflation for over a decade in places like Cairo. That's not a superhero story. That's documented history. Mali wasn't just rich, it was a center of learning. The city of Timbuktu housed one of the world's first universities, the University of Sankara, attracting scholars from all over the globe. They studied mathematics, astronomy, law, and literature in grand libraries filled with hundreds of thousands of manuscripts. This was a civilization that valued knowledge as much as gold. This was a real Wakanda. Now, let's journey further south to the Kingdom of Benin, in what is now modern-day Nigeria. Forget the stereotypes of primitive tribes. The Kingdom of Benin was a highly organized society with a sophisticated political system, but what truly set it apart was its art. We're talking about the Benin bronzes, thousands of intricate plaques and sculptures made from brass and bronze that adorned the royal palace. These weren't just decorations, they were historical records, telling the story of their kings, their traditions, and their spiritual beliefs with a level of detail and artistry that rivaled the master artists of the European Renaissance. The craftsmanship was so advanced that when European explorers first saw them, they refused to believe that Africans could have created something so magnificent. They invented stories, claiming the knowledge must have come from the Egyptians or even lost Europeans. They couldn't accept that this level of genius, this artistic Wakanda, originated right there in West Africa. And we can't forget the powerful Kingdom of Kongo, nestled in the heart of the continent. This was a vast and influential state with a complex network of trade and a centralized government long before European arrival. They had their own currency, a sophisticated legal system, and ambassadors who engaged in diplomacy with European nations, including Portugal. The leaders of Congo were skilled politicians and negotiators, managing a kingdom that stretched across thousands of miles. They had a structured society, a strong military, and a thriving economy based on textiles, pottery, and metalwork. Their story isn't one of isolation, but of a dynamic, interconnected kingdom actively shaping its own destiny and engaging with the wider world on its own terms. This was a political Wakanda, a beacon of organization and power, and these are just a few examples. We could talk about the architectural marvels of Great Zimbabwe, a city of stone built without mortar that baffled archaeologists for decades. We could talk about the scientific achievements of ancient Egypt, a foundational African civilization whose innovations in medicine, engineering, and writing laid the groundwork for much of the world that followed. From the powerful Songhai Empire to the scholarly centers in Nubia, Africa was a continent of thriving, advanced and powerful civilizations. Each was a Wakanda in its own right, rich in resources, rich in culture, and rich in knowledge. So, what happened? If Africa was home to such incredible power and innovation, why is the dominant narrative today so often one of poverty and struggle? The answer is as simple as it is devastating: colonization. It wasn't just a period of political control, it was a systematic project to dismantle these great civilizations and, just as importantly, to erase the memory of their greatness. The wealth was stolen. The artifacts, like the Benin bronzes, were looted and scattered in museums across the world. But the most insidious theft was the theft of history itself. A new story was written, a false story of a dark continent that needed to be civilized. The achievements of Mali, Benin, and Kongo were downplayed, distorted, or completely ignored. Generations were taught that their history began with slavery and colonization, that they had no legacy of kings, queens, scholars, and innovators to look back on. The dream of Wakanda wasn't just lost, it was stolen and hidden from its own people. This historical blackout has had profound consequences. When you strip a people of their history, you strip them of their identity and their sense of possibility. If you believe your ancestors were nothing, it becomes harder to believe you can be something. This is why the idea of Wakanda resonates so deeply. It's not just a cool superhero movie, it's a powerful symbol of what was and what can be again. It represents a reality that was stolen, a connection to a legacy of greatness that every person of African descent carries in their DNA. But here is the most important part of this story. The spirit of Wakanda was never truly destroyed. It lives on. It lives in the resilience of African people on the continent and in the diaspora. It lives in the artists, entrepreneurs, scientists, and leaders who are building a new future. It lives in the movements for Pan-Africanism and Black pride that are reconnecting us to our shared history and our collective strength. The truth is being unearthed. The manuscripts of Timbuktu are being preserved and digitized. There are global calls for the return of looted artifacts, a demand to bring our history home. Africa is rising, not as a copy of the West, but on its own terms, fueled by the memory of its own past greatness. The idea of Wakanda isn't a fantasy to escape to. It is a history to reclaim and a future to build. It's a reminder that the innovation, the unity, and the excellence we saw on screen are not foreign concepts. They are our birthright. The real Wakanda wasn't a fictional place hidden behind a force. It was a real continent of powerful kingdoms hidden behind a wall of lies. And now, that wall is coming down. The truth is out. Wakanda is not just a dream. It is our history. It is our legacy. And most importantly, it is our future. Wakanda Forever isn't just a slogan. It's a promise to remember our past and to build a future worthy of it. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through our hidden history. If this story moved you or taught you something new, please hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the truths that have been hidden from us. Let's keep learning and growing together. Until next time.